The next winter storm that we are tracking is expected to impact areas farther to the south, and I believe we could see some surprisingly high snow totals with this event. We will discuss exactly where that might occur as we move deeper into this forecast, and we will be getting very detailed. After we cover this system, we have everything else sectioned out for you as well. There is another time frame of interest developing as we head into early next week, and we will provide you with all the detailed information we have on that. Then, we will continue to look even further into the month of December, trying to understand the overall pattern and how it seems to support more waves of cold air and additional chances for winter weather for the foreseeable future. My name is Mitch, and I wish you a very pleasant Wednesday evening. I hope you all are doing well and have had a wonderful week so far. If you find this information helpful, please consider subscribing to the channel and liking the video. And if anyone has something on their heart that I can keep in my thoughts and prayers, please feel free to leave a comment below. Now, let's take a closer look at tonight's weather picture. We are continuing to see some snow across the Great Lakes region and into areas of eastern Canada. In southern Ontario, we are also observing some moisture developing across the Midwest. This activity has prompted the issuance of special weather statements ahead of this band of snow for parts of Ohio, northern Kentucky, West Virginia, and the surrounding states. We could see some light snowfall accumulations from this activity overnight, but the main event is farther to the west. A snowstorm has been underway across Colorado, with heavy snow falling in the typically favored higher elevations of northern New Mexico. We are also seeing moisture beginning to move across the southern and central plains, including Kansas and the panhandles of Oklahoma and Texas. Additionally, Gulf moisture is being drawn into the system across the southeastern sections of Texas and into Louisiana. So, while that is the broad overview, this area right here is what we are watching most closely with this next approaching storm system. Now, looking at our current watches, warnings, and advisories, we do have winter weather advisories posted in these purple shaded areas. These are new for the panhandles of Oklahoma and Texas, including Amarillo and areas just west of Ginn, which are now under winter weather advisories. We also have some special weather statements in effect for places like Oklahoma City, points west, and even south of Amarillo down toward Lubbock. These are for the potential of light snowfall accumulations. I will note that it is interesting that special weather statements have not yet been issued for communities such as Wichita Falls, which would help connect these advisory areas more cohesively. I anticipate that we may see winter weather advisories issued for this area by the time we wake up tomorrow morning, but we shall see. Winter storm warnings do continue for the southern Front Range of Colorado and northern New Mexico. And here are those special weather statements across the Ohio Valley and the Appalachian Mountains, which are in place for some light snowfall accumulations expected overnight. We also continue to see winter weather advisories for lake-effect snow. Let's now break down the timing of this main storm system. We will begin around midnight tonight, Eastern Time. The time is noted at the top of your screen, but if you are in the Central Time Zone, of course you would just subtract 1 hour. So this is for the middle of the night tonight. We see snow beginning to develop across western Oklahoma and the panhandle of Texas. Some of these banding features could produce some heavy snow, folks. You can observe the Gulf moisture being drawn northward down here, and these areas of precipitation will connect as we move forward in time. Let's continue to do just that. As we move into the early hours of the morning, around 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, take a look at this snow. You can see the darker corridors of blue stretching from Amarillo to Oklahoma City. This will be a narrow band, not a widespread winter storm, but whichever locations are under this band could certainly receive between 1 and 3 inches of snow. As you can see, Oklahoma City should be seeing snow around 4 o'clock tomorrow morning. As we continue to advance to about 7 or 8 o'clock, which is daybreak, we have this very thin but potentially intense band of snow. This is something to watch very carefully, as it could take some people by surprise. The main challenge is pinpointing exactly where this narrow band will set up, but the air is certainly cold enough for snow. There just is not a great deal of widespread moisture. Let's move ahead to about midday, around the lunch hour tomorrow. We will shift the entire map farther to the east. You can see this area of winter weather here. The purple shading indicates sleet, while the blue is snow. And even though you see green overlapping the blue, this is more than likely falling as all snow. The model shows a wintry mix beginning to move into Little Rock. There is still some light snow back in Oklahoma, but we have a full-fledged wintry mix around midday tomorrow across central Arkansas. As we continue to move this forward into tomorrow afternoon, all of the precipitation in the green and yellow is rain, but on the far northern edge of this system, it is cold enough for some snow. So for Memphis, a little bit of sleet and snow is certainly possible tomorrow, but the chances increase just to your north. Let us continue to move this along and shift our view farther to the east and northeast. All right, this is around 10 post-meridium tomorrow evening. We are looking at a wintry mix in Nashville. In fact, if this run of the high-resolution model is correct, let's zoom in a little bit closer. This is indicating some moderate snow falling around the Nashville area tomorrow night. And then as we keep it going and move toward midnight, which is 1 anti-meridium Eastern time on Friday morning, notice how dark that blue shading becomes. That represents some heavy snow. It is possible we could start with some snow in the Tri-Cities region of Tennessee right here. But you can see where the Tennessee Valley is. The northern Cumberland Plateau, north of Knoxville, could experience some very heavy, wet snow. For Nashville, the latest high-resolution model is suggesting a few hours of a wintry mix late tomorrow night. But this is heavy, wet snow all the way up to Beckley. You are right on the line here in Bristol, and it will likely start as a wintry mix in western North Carolina, including Asheville. I do believe that warmer air moving in aloft will be a significant factor here. But let's take a closer look at this area. As we continue to move forward, we can see this has trended toward being a faster storm system, with precipitation moving in much quicker. But we will pause it here, folks. It is snowing quite heavily just a little bit north of Hickory. For Charlotte and Greensboro, it appears to be all rain. However, it could start as snow in Greensboro. In fact, it could begin as rain, change over to a heavy snow, and then perhaps back to rain. This is around 4 o'clock on Friday morning. This is heavy sleet and snow. You can see the yellow corridors right in here, indicating heavy precipitation trying to move into that cold air. But this is shaping up to be a quick-hitting snowstorm for Virginia. For Lynchburg, Roanoke, Danville, Charlottesville, Richmond, and Fredericksburg, it will be snowing quite steadily. This could provide a significant burst of snow right at the beginning of the event. I would suggest waking up early on Friday morning to see it, because the snowflakes could be quite large. As we continue to move forward, we get to about 6 o'clock in the morning. And here at 7 o'clock in the morning, it is still snowing. It is still snowing in Greensboro. At this point, that would be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-hour period of snow in Greensboro if this particular model is correct. I think that might be a bit enthusiastic, but I truly believe this storm will meet winter storm criteria for some areas. It is not a major winter storm, but I think it is going to catch people by surprise. This is some heavy snow, and if I am moving a bit quickly with the time, I know I am going back and forth here, but this frame is for 6 o'clock Friday morning. We still have some snow flying around eastern Kentucky and the southern half of West Virginia. I hope our winter weather enthusiasts in Charleston are able to see some snow from this system. I know it appears as though the heaviest precipitation is missing you to the south. The purple colors here indicate sleet, and any pink you see represents freezing rain. As we keep this in motion, the system begins to climb up into the mid-Atlantic region. So, this is 9 and 10 o'clock on Friday morning. We see some of this light to moderate snow reaching all the way up into the Washington, D.C. area. A little bit of snow on the back end in Beckley, perhaps as far south as the Tri-Cities region, but it looks like you need to be in southwestern Virginia or eastern Kentucky to really be in the thick of it. But this brings about a 9-hour period of snow into Richmond, and the snow tries to make it all the way up here. And on this last frame, the snow attempts to reach all the way up to Wilmington, Philadelphia, and Trenton. So, we will have to see how far north this precipitation shield extends. This is as far out as we can see on this particular high-resolution model. My apologies for the change in my speaking volume during that segment. We had a bit of background noise to contend with, so I had to raise my voice to be heard clearly. But let's go over the snowfall total projections right now. We will update this to see if there have been any changes. We are looking at around an inch of snow in Amarillo. The forecast does show a little snow into southwestern Oklahoma, but just a dusting. Now, I want to show you what the high-resolution model is indicating, the same model I just used to break down the storm's timing. I think this is worth showing. It projects 1.5 inches of snow for Amarillo, but it also highlights these banding features in here. The colors you see, if you look at the color graph at the bottom, represent 1 to 3 inches of snow. For Oklahoma City, it projects almost 1 inch of snow. it does show 1 to 2 inches south of Oklahoma City. So, whichever community ends up under this band will see those totals. It could be farther north. I do not believe it will go as far south as the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but that is a situation we will need to monitor closely. Now, as for the National Weather Service snow forecast for Arkansas, they are not calling for anything significant. But if you look at the model run, it shows some light. Snowfall accumulations roughly north of Little Rock into Conway. It indicates some light amounts, and I think this is very possible. This would be for a few tenths of an inch, perhaps up to a half an inch of snow. So, I will not be surprised if we hear reports of some accumulating sleet or snow in parts of Arkansas as we get into tomorrow. The same situation applies to Kentucky and Tennessee. The National Weather Service forecast is not calling for much at all, perhaps a dusting here and there, but not much accumulation. It suggests about a tenth of an inch in Clarksville. However, if you look at the high-resolution model, it shows a solid dusting to a coating of snow from almost north of Memphis and Jackson, Tennessee, up to Clarksville and Cookeville, south of the Somerset area. And it appears poised to deliver a few inches of snow in southeastern Kentucky, which will really get the snowfall started there. Johnson City, however, is only projected to receive a tenth of an inch, so the system seems to sidestep the Tennessee Valley. It is my assessment that the sub-southern Cumberland Plateau, down toward Chattanooga and similar areas, will simply remain too warm. For those locations, it is going to be mainly a cold rain, but we will keep a very close watch. Now, let us take a careful look at the latest snow forecast, and we will spend some time on this map. The latest projection for snow in Virginia, North Carolina, and West Virginia is highlighted here in the blue area. It is helpful if you know which county you reside in, because the map cannot list every town and city. But for Roanoke right now, the forecast calls for 1.5 inches of snow. Charlottesville is expecting about a half inch to 1 inch. For Richmond, I do want to add that this particular forecast only extends until 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Friday, which is why we will look at more graphics. Between now and early Friday afternoon, Richmond has almost 1 inch of snow in the forecast. The same is true for Danville. And from Greensboro to Hickory, they are expecting just shy of a half inch of snow. Now, I do think some ice will also be possible in these areas. This particular chart is from the high-resolution model, and it is indicating a significant impact from heavy snowfall in this region. In fact, it suggests a half foot of snow could fall southwest of Roanoke in these pink-shaded areas. For Danville, it is forecasting 3 inches, and for Greensboro, 2 inches. For Hickory, 1.5 inches is forecast, and for Richmond, 3 inches of snow. This model suggests that southwestern and southern areas of Virginia will be impacted hard by a heavy, wet snow. Now, some people, particularly those who are very conservative in their forecasts, might look at this and say, there is no way this will happen. I would simply advise that we not be so hasty, as I believe there is a real possibility some of these totals could occur. This forecast also only extends to about 1 o'clock in the afternoon as well. So, in some of these regions, like the one over here, it will still be snowing at that time. Now, if we consult the official National Weather Service forecast for their projected amounts, and let's update this to be sure. No, we do not have anything new. They are maintaining a safe forecast, calling for around 1 inch of snow across all these areas. You may want to pause the screen here for a closer look. For Clemens, as you can see at the bottom of your screen, and the Winston-Salem area, about a half inch is expected, so nothing too significant in this area. Now, they are calling for some ice, my friends, generally a few hundredths of an inch of ice in these locations. So, not a great deal, although some areas could receive a tenth of an inch or so. But please listen, I want to quickly explain the science behind this initial burst of heavy snow. I want to examine what we call a sounding, just southwest of Roanoke, for the southwestern areas of Virginia. The blue color on the chart indicates snow. As I select this, you will see it is 29 degrees at the surface. This red number represents 29 degrees Fahrenheit. The green number is 28, and the letter D indicates that the dew point is also 28 degrees. So, the dew point is tracking just behind the air temperature, which means that the atmosphere is fully saturated. For example, if it were 42 degrees outside and the dew point was 41.7 degrees, the atmosphere would be loaded with moisture. That is precisely the condition we expect in this specific area of southwest Virginia as we get into the early morning hours of Friday. I believe this particular sounding was for approximately 1 to 2 o'clock in the morning on Friday. A temperature of 29 degrees is plenty cold enough for snow. Now, if you look at this blue line right here, that represents the 32-degree freezing line, starting from the surface and extending upward. So, 29 degrees is well below 32 degrees, making it sufficiently cold for snow. And then you can see a small bulge right here, what we meteorologists call a warm nose, where the temperature actually rises slightly as you move higher up. The further up this line you go, the higher you are in the atmosphere. So, you get up to about 850 millibars here. You see that number? 850? That is about 1 mile up in the air above where you are standing in this part of Virginia. You have about 500 millibars right here, which is at an altitude of approximately 18,000 feet. As you can see, the dew points remain very close to the air temperature all the way up into the upper levels of the atmosphere. So, what I am trying to say is that the atmosphere is more than cold enough aloft for snow at all levels. Even in this warm nose where it tries to spike, it does not rise above 32 degrees, which would be needed to melt the snowflakes. The entire column of air is supersaturated, so we call this a saturated column. To summarize all of that technical information, the atmosphere is prepared to produce a great deal of snow. All the available moisture will precipitate as snow. Therefore, we are going to see those large cotton ball snowflakes. It will be quite beautiful, much like what we discussed for St. Louis about a week ago. Well, it was several days ago now with that storm system. So I just wanted to explain that, as I think some people are in for a very big surprise. When the atmosphere is in this state, these areas can receive an inch or two of snow in about an hour to an hour and a half. This means it can greatly exceed the forecast snow amounts. As for the areas where I am expecting a surprise, I believe Virginia is a primary area to watch, and then certain areas of northwestern North Carolina. Now, this is the forecast for snowfall totals for eastern Virginia. Let us update this to be certain. Yes, Richmond is forecast for around 1 inch. And Lynchburg for 1 inch. So, not a great deal of difference with this, folks, and just a few hundredths of an inch of freezing rain. And then we will move our attention north to the Washington, D.C. area. The district is forecast for around 1 inch of snow, with a little bit of snow here in the Tidewater and on the Delmarva Peninsula, about 1 inch here and there. I do think there are some variables here if we can get more moisture into this region. This area is certainly plenty cold enough for snow. The question is whether it will get enough moisture. I also want to take a moment to address my viewers in Long Island and New York City. The forecast models do hint at the idea of some bands of snow reaching your area, but right now, we are not expecting a major event by any means. I also want to mention this light snow event expected later tonight across the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. This will drop a thin coating of snow across Illinois and Indiana, amounting to a few tenths of an inch and also into Ohio. Now, let me show you that some areas could receive about 1/2 inch of snow, beginning with approximately that amount here in Cincinnati. This will be enough to put a fresh coating over everything again. If you have had some snowmelt in the last day or two, this will most likely create a new layer across Ohio. Now, as we move past this particular weather event, we are still watching the period from the end of the weekend into early next week. You may recall the GFS model showed that rather extreme run where it projected a very large snowstorm across the southeast and mid-Atlantic. Now, there is energy in the atmosphere. We have energy diving in with a trough, and we have energy developing off the coast of the southeast. Some phasing or joining of these systems is attempting to occur. And I do think we are going to have some snow falling in the same areas that will see it over the next day or two, particularly in the southern and central Appalachian Mountains. The ingredients are there for these pieces of energy to phase together, but it just does not appear to happen in time. So, we are left with a mix of rain and snow on Monday, with a little bit of snow in western North Carolina, but certainly the GFS model has backed off its earlier forecast. Now, what about the latest European model? What is it showing? It seems we do not have the latest European model data. That is quite unusual. There must be a technical issue with the 18Z data run because it is not showing up for me at this time. Let me try a few different ways to refresh it. No, it appears there is indeed something going on with the 18Z European model run, so I do not have it to show you. However, the previous 12Z run showed a fairly aggressive-looking clipper system diving down. It had some energy for Sunday morning, but this translated to just a chilly rain across the southeast. These areas of energy try to connect, You have something off the coast of the Carolinas and some energy diving down into the western slopes of the mountains here, but in general, the pieces do not connect. There is not enough cold air involved. So, as we get into Monday morning, we just have a chilly rain down here in Georgia and South Carolina, and nothing significant shows up. So, right now, we have seen a little bit of a retreat on this idea, but we also do not know what that delayed 18Z European run showed. The Canadian model has been hinting at this storm, as has the European AI model, but right now, I am not treating it with a high degree of confidence. However, I do want to watch out for a rain-snow mix late Sunday into Monday night across some of the same areas that are going to receive winter weather here as we head into Friday. This is the signal for Friday. But as we move into that next time frame of interest, Sunday into Monday, you can see the European ensemble model is trying to show something here, hinting at the idea of a little bit of snow in these areas. But I must say, it is not a strong signal at all. So, moving past that time frame, let us see if anything else is on the horizon. I think that the pattern in general will be dominated by clipper systems, originating from the northern jet stream. So, we will start again for late this coming Saturday night. You can see this clipper diving in, and it could produce some heavy snowfall totals. I would say some periods of heavy snow are possible, and it could bring a few to several inches of snow across areas of the Midwest, but it might not because this is such a fast-moving piece of energy. But as we continue to move forward, that system moves through, and then as we get into Monday and Tuesday, here is more energy diving into the Great Lakes region and the upper Midwest. This will then move into the Northeast, providing some more snow and adding to the seasonal totals. And then a very aggressive area of energy dives down. This could bring cold air with it as well. A 989 millibar clipper is diving in. Look how heavy that snow is, indicated by those darker blues. This dives in, but mainly impacts the Great Lakes region through to the northeast, getting into Thursday of next week. Then we have a large trough that digs down. It digs down, and we will have to see what happens with that. We could get a northwest flow snow event, or we could have more energy sliding down this trough. However, it mainly looks like events driven by the northern stream. And then we get all the way out to day 10, and another clipper dives in. So the question is, are we going to get any sort of tap into the southern stream energy? Another way to look at this is to examine this large trough diving across the eastern United States. You can see the blue and the green colors here. This is a trough, which is a dip in the jet stream over the eastern United States. And this stays consistent through next week. As we get into the middle of next week, around next Thursday and Friday, we have another reinforcing trough that drops down. So, this area in blue is a trough of low pressure, a dip in the jet stream. It brings down cold air and can generate energy in the atmosphere, whether that is a weak storm system, a strong storm system, or something in between. And then we have this ridge flexing over the west. So, cold air is sliding down into the eastern United States, and this continues. Then we have somewhat of a ridge showing up at the end of the forecast run, but I think the colder pattern will persist. I do not believe this warm spell is going to last for very long. In fact, if you look toward the end of the forecast period, the European ensemble model already shows that ridge breaking down, allowing a solid pool of cold air to arrive once again across the higher latitudes. However, concerning the energy we are tracking, as we head into Monday morning, you can observe some energy situated between the primary northern stream and any southern stream energy. So, we have a piece of that energy dipping southward, and this is what could bring a bit of a surprise early next week. But after that system moves through, it appears our main stream of energy will be shifting northward into this region. The question is whether it will tap into any moisture down here, but for now, most of our atmospheric flow is diving down in this manner. Now, I do want to keep a close watch as we move later into next week. It is possible this system could dip a little farther south, which could produce some interesting weather. For now, I would just say that late next week and into the following weekend, bear watching. That is a signal for some more energy diving a bit farther south. One thing I can tell you is that these reinforcing troughs are going to continue to bring in more and more cold air. So, this outlook covers the period between tomorrow and the 14th of December, a 10-day period in total. It shows the entire eastern half of the lower 48 states experiencing below average temperatures. The areas shaded in blue and green indicate where below average temperatures are forecast. So, for example, if your average high temperature is 55 degrees, then your actual high temperatures might only be in the upper 30s to 40s. Therefore, it is helpful to know what your average high temperature is for your specific area during this early December period. The cold air appears to be locked in place, and we are seeing some significant swings in the models, my friends. For instance, this was the European model from earlier this afternoon, which showed a significant Arctic blast moving across the eastern United States late next week and into the weekend, followed by another one right behind it. But then, if you look at another trusted model, the GFS, it projects a very different scenario, with a great deal of warm air moving into the middle of the country. It shows a small cold blast late next week, but then it brings a giant ridge of high pressure and well above average temperatures to the entire southern tier and eastern half of the nation. So, there is a lot of back and forth in the models toward the very end of the forecast run. Right around the mid-month time frame, one model brings in a great deal of very cold air. But for the most part, we are seeing what we call a windshield wiper effect in the models, with the forecast shifting back and forth. The last thing we will end with is the Madden-Julian oscillation, or MJO. We have been talking about this quite a bit, haven't we? Phases 6, 5, and 4 are what we consider our warm phases. Phase 7 is a transitional phase, as is Phase 3. Phases 8, 1, and 2 are our cold and wintry phases during the winter season. So, the question is, where are we now, and where are we heading? Today is the 3rd of December. So, if this chart is correct, we are now firmly in Phase 8, and we have moved there quite rapidly over the last couple of days. This forecast shows us remaining there for the next couple of weeks. We might slip into what meteorologists sometimes call the circle of death, which simply means a low amplitude phase. If that happens, the weather impacts might not be as strong as what that phase normally brings. But we will not worry about that until we need to. For now, we are in Phase 8, and it looks as though we may remain in Phase 8 for what could be a record-breaking length of time. If that happens, we will likely begin to see even more adjustments toward cold and wintry solutions in the forecasts for the central and eastern United States coming up. I made a post on social media earlier saying that I believe we are going to start to see some significant winter storm potential showing up in the model guidance over the next 7 days. But we will continue to watch this. For now, we have a winter storm right in front of us to analyze. So, we will continue to sort out the pattern. God bless you all, and have a wonderful night. I also want to mention that I feel my flow has not been as smooth in these videos the last couple of days. When I get on a roll and make 2 videos a day, I can sometimes start to mix up my words, and for whatever reason, I have had a very difficult time starting my videos lately. I sometimes have to restart them 15 or even 20 times, which can unfortunately use up 20 or 30 minutes. At times, I spend a full 20 to 30 minutes, folks, just on starting the video, particularly the introduction. It has truly been a struggle. The more I have to restart, the more it can disrupt my flow later in the video. So, hopefully, we can get into a better rhythm, as this does happen from time to time. I have experienced this throughout my time on YouTube, and it seems to come in waves. I will have 3 or 4 weeks where I am speaking very smoothly, and then I will have 3 or 4 weeks where I find myself stumbling over my words and things of that nature. So, if that has been a distraction for you folks, I do apologize. Hopefully, we will get on a nice, smooth roll going forward. Have a wonderful night. We will do it again tomorrow morning. God bless.